Ghislaine Maxwell completed the briefing in her request to have the Supreme Court vacate her conviction and sentence. And that request, her petition for certiorari, was docketed for the Supreme Court's long conference at the end of September. So that's when the court will consider that. In the meantime, the New York Times has reported that Maxwell was recently moved to a minimum security women's prison in Texas. So something appears to be in the works. And as we were recording, Allison Gill broke the news, which NBC and MSNBC confirmed, that in order to transfer Ghislaine Maxwell to a minimum security facility, the government had to waive her status as a sex trafficker/sex offender, because ordinarily that designation would prevent the government from placing her in a minimum security facility. One wonders what she gave to the number 2 official at DOJ, Trump's former personal lawyer, in order to get that. Or maybe she's blackmailing him. Unclear. Mark, what did you make of that news?
So this reminded me of something, and at first I couldn't quite place it. And then I remembered that in 2019, Trump's Justice Department and his Attorney General William Barr intervened to try to help Paul Manafort not be sent to a worse prison, potentially Rikers Island in New York. The Justice Department filed a very strange letter with the authorities, essentially saying that Manafort deserved special treatment, that he shouldn't be transferred to a different facility, that he needed, because of his health, to stay in a nice kind of cushy place. And he was a special guy who deserved special care. That was, I think, in some ways like a precursor to what we're seeing with Maxwell. Like, this administration knows all of the tools that it can use to help the people it wants to help and hurt the people it wants to hurt. We're mostly used to seeing them hurt people, but I fear that this is an example of the Trump administration trying to help Maxwell by saying, hey, we're going to transfer you to a better prison, a facility that you want to be in exchange for what? Well, we don't yet know. I don't think it's difficult to guess that the Trump administration wants Maxwell to testify that a bunch of Democrats were running a sex slave cabal or something along those lines. And I think
while Donald Trump is totally innocent.
Completely innocent. And this government also knows that pardon for Maxwell probably isn't going to look so good. Or a commutation also not going to play so well with the masses. So what tool do they have at their disposal? Well, they have a prison transfer, and lo and behold, they've already done it.
And Manafort's prison transfer was in advance of a pardon. So I wouldn't go so far as to rule that out completely.
Not at all. And I would just note, like, there's a real possibility that there's a guarantee of a pardon on January 20th, 2029. Exactly. Whether Trump would follow through on that is an open question. It's not like it would be binding, but I could absolutely see that kind of corrupt bargain being struck.
For sure. So this process of giving Ghislaine Maxwell all the treats may have really gotten started. So part of the reason why I wanted to follow up on this topic is over the last week, Trump somehow managed to sink to a new low on Epstein matters when he referred to one of Trump's victims as property, his property, since she had worked in his spa. So we are going to play those clips here.
Mr. President, Epstein has a certain reputation, obviously. Just curious, were some of the workers that were taken from you, were some of them young women?
Were some of them young women? Well, I don't want to say, but everyone knows the people that were taken. And it was the concept of taking people that work for me is bad. But that story's been pretty well out there. And the answer is yes, they were.
Yes, they were young
Yeah.
women? What did they do?
In the spa.
Jobs? In the spa?
Yeah, it's people that work in the spa. I have a great spa, one of the best spas in the world at Mar-a-Lago. And people were taken out of the spa, hired by him. In other words, gone. And other people would come and complain, this guy is taking people from the spa. I didn't know that. And then when I heard about it, I told him, I said, listen, we don't want you taking our people, whether it was spa or not spa. I don't want him taking people. And he was fine. And then not too long after that, he did it again. And I said, out of here.
Mr. President, did one of those stolen, persons, that include Virginia Nefri?
I don't know. I think she worked at the spa. I think so. I think that was one of the people, yeah. He stole her. And by the way, she had no complaints about us, as you know. None whatsoever.
What to say here? It's violent, painful misogyny that is repeatedly on display, and in any sane administration, this would be a damning scandal. You know, like the woman, Virginia, left Trump's employee well before Trump severed ties with Epstein, and therefore well after Trump knew Epstein was cultivating and grooming underage girls. The idea that Trump would be enraged that someone hired a random masseuse at one of his hotels is insane, unless the person wasn't a random masseuse and had some other role. And the fact that this is all happening as he is considering pardoning a sex offender, right, who was complicit in and engaged in an abuse of these girls is just Trump.